Hey everybody, this is going to be the first of a series of walkthroughs of the progress on my 1965 Mustang project. This is a car I purchased from a guy on eBay. It had all the body and metal work done, which it was done pretty well as long as you were blind and didn't care about welds being done with an alternator and a coat hanger. So after a few years of work, this is about where we stand right now. One of the big things I've worked on a lot is getting the door gaps lined up properly. I should note that the door is kind of just tossed on here right now, relatively speaking, so these gaps aren't quite perfect. There's still a few little things here and there that need to get adjusted. And if you look here, there's some silver Sharpie indicating where my door gap is actually a little bit too tight now. It's chipping the paint, so I've got to open that up a little bit. Another one of the things that I've done is shaved the drip rails. This was a project that looked easy and wasn't. It's actually quite a bit of work to do that. You have to cut the metal and stitch weld it along the way. There's a few different pieces of metal there, and some of the spots are kind of thin, so it took quite a bit of time to get that all dialed in perfectly, but it's pretty straight now. I think it'll be good enough for what I'm doing. Another one of the mods that I've done to the body right here is normally a seam. It runs from the window down to the trunk right here. And again, the gentleman who did the previous work on it didn't really get that panel very well aligned when he replaced it. So I had to work the metal down, and I didn't like the way that seam looked. So it was filled with weld. I actually basically filled completely in with metal and then welded tight and then ground down. So it's not just full of Bondo, it's actually metal so that it won't crack later. I did a similar thing down here at the base of the quarter panel where it meets the rocker. Again, there's originally a seam that ran right here where those two panels met. And again, I don't really care for the extra seams. I didn't like the way it looked. There was nothing really wrong with the installation. I just didn't care for it. So again, I welded that up, and it's not full of Bondo. It's actually welded up with steel. So another one of the modifications. I'll get up underneath the car once it's up in the air on the lift and show some of the work underneath. But this seam right here was actually cut. There was a lip on this originally that stuck in about 3/4 of an inch. And that seam was cut off till it was flush, and the outer quarter panel was welded to the inner quarter panel wheel arch area. So it's basically flush just to give me a little bit more tire clearance. These cars don't have a lot of clearance from the factory. So that was one of the things I did to improve it. Another one of my side projects here, or body mod projects here, was getting this bumper to fit a lot more tightly. If you look closely at the bumper, you'll notice that it's kind of rough. I haven't done the body work on it. It was just cut to fit where I wanted it, and then it was hit with epoxy to make sure that the metal was sealed. So another change, this is something the Mustang guys are real big fans of this. They don't hate it at all. I got rid of the stock 65 taillights. A lot of people like them, a lot of people hate that I changed them. They say it's a kind of a Mustang trait. I like the later ones where they have the concave tail panel here and the lights kind of inset, but to me the 65 tail lights, they just kind of look stuck on. I don't care for them. I've never cared for them. I'm real happy that it's a signature trait. I don't like it. It's my car, so I changed it. These were inspired by a 70 Camaro. I kind of went for that style. These are inset. They're LED, and I think it just changes the look of the car a little bit. There's perhaps a little more to these than it looks. So these are inset into basically steel tubes and wired up, but they're cut to fit, or they're sized to fit the same as the gas cap. So once everything's installed, everything has the same diameter, and I feel like it'll just kind of flow a little bit more nicely. So if you don't like it, well, too bad, buy your own Mustang. So to give a shot down the car again, the passenger door is not perfectly lined up. It's got a little bit of tilt in at the bottom and out at the top, and again, this was thrown together just to kind of get an eye of panel fit. When it's dialed in perfectly, it lines up real nice. But it kind of, I think, gives an idea of how straight the car is. And we'll look down the driver's side. This is lined up a little bit better. It's still not quite right, but I think you get, again, a pretty good idea of what's there. And underneath this, the metal work has all been done, and everything was Bondoed. It's not coated in Bondo or anything, but everything was kind of smoothed out with Bondo, and then it was hit with Z-Chrome Rust Defender, which helps seal it. It's a polyester primer. And then a few areas were hit with a couple coats just to let me block it out real nice and smooth. Then it was guide coated and blocked out. And this is 3 coats of black epoxy that's been reduced a little bit to function as a sealer. I just wanted to get a good solid base under everything. And then we'll come up to the front. And up front, there's quite a bit more work here. The front bumper has been tucked in about an inch from stock, fore and aft, so it's been moved back about an inch to tighten it up to the chip guard, or rock guard, a little bit better. And then it's been tucked in about an inch and a half in total width. So the gaps on the sides here, factory, are quite a bit larger. So this is modified just to kind of tighten it up, make it look a little bit better. I don't care for the Shelby race, air quotes here, race valences quite as much, where they lose the front bumper. I kind of like the front bumper, even though I kind of abhor chrome. So there's not really going to be much, if any, chrome on this. Everything's going to be pretty much blacked out or satin. I don't care for chrome. So the bumper will be probably painted in a rubberized black, like a black Plastidip or something, just to give a little contrast to the body. And then you can see I've got the open kind of Shelby style valence with the bumper, and there's an oil cooler that lives down there. And beyond that, not a lot of changes to the front. I hand fabricated this grill out of some universal grill mesh. I bought a reproduction 65 grill and it fit like garbage. I had a 66 grill, which was a stock piece, but it was 50 years old, not in the greatest of shape, so I didn't really care for it very much. So I changed it to this style. This is a 65 car. It's sort of a 65 style grill. And that's an aluminum frame that's made out of some 1/4 inch aluminum plate. So it's nice and rigid, and then the metal is just TIG to it. And then I reworked the surround a little bit just to tighten it up, make it all fit a little bit better. And you'll notice there's some modern headlights in here. And right now these are just kind of a generic black housing. I haven't decided if I'm going to retrofit an LED into it or if I'm going to retrofit a projector. It's probably going to end up a projector with HIDs, and I'll just use a nice proper OE projector from another application and customize the fit with a bi-xenon setup. So there's still a little bit of work that needs to get done up here in the shrouding. This is set up to keep all of the air coming into the intercooler properly and into the radiator properly. Everything's nice and sealed up. I don't like overheating cars. They're not a lot of fun. I don't want to look like the roadkill guys driving around with no hood all the time. Although, ironically, there's no hood on the car. When it's done, there will be one. It is over in my absolutely terrible looking pile of parts over here. Once I assemble the car, I'll have a little bit more room in my garage again. So I'm not going to go too far into the engine setup right now. We'll do another video for that. Just as a quick rundown, it is a basically stock Coyote. It's got head studs and a few other things, upgraded valve springs and twin turbos. So nothing, nothing too boring, nothing too crazy, but it should make it a pretty fun street car. And you can see my strut tower brace up there. Beyond that, that's about it for the body mods. And we'll do another video here and go over the suspension. And we'll do another video to kind of go over what I'm doing with the interior, and then one for the engine. So thanks a lot, everybody.